Hi, and a very good afternoon to you. Before we get into the video today, we're going to be talking about all what's going on around the world with regards to climate change. Just want to say a big thank you to those few people that have been putting a bit of support our way for the observatory over the last few days. You know, I completely and absolutely appreciate your support. You know, I am trying to do my best here to keep things funded as much as I possibly can, but at the moment, with the current climate and the way things are, it's just proving an impossible task. But I haven't given up, even pushing it a little bit further to try and do a little bit more. But you know, it'd be great if a few more people would just continue supporting us and the observatory and what we actually do for, you know, over 1,000 people that watch this video and 30,000 subscribers, and of course we have 15,000 views now on the website every week. So there is a service that is being done, and you know, it can only be possible at this moment if we all do our little bit. So if you want to help support the observatory, the link's down there in the description. So, you know, we've had fires in Canada, fires in the United States, floods in Belgium, floods in Germany, landslides in Turkey, and torrential floods in China. You know, this wasn't a common anomaly 30 years ago, and the only thing that has changed in the last 30 years is the uptick in the magnetic pole migrating, and possibly a slightening of the weakening of the magnetosphere, allowing more cosmic rays in. They reckon we're nearly at 20% loss of field strength on our planet. That's a lot, and it's enough to create scenarios that we're witnessing now more often. It's not just climatic events that we're seeing. You know, when we see these people wading through the streets with water almost up to the necks, you know, there is another side to what is going on here, and that is crop damage. And on top of everything else, it's not just a lack of crops, a lack of containers, a lack of cans to put food in. You know, because of the pandemic, a lack of workers. We've got a, we've got a shortfall in 70,000 logistical drivers in this country that deliver all the goods everywhere, and things are starting to show cracks in the foundations of the system falling apart. And it's not just related to here in the UK. This is something globally that is taking place. It's not just global crop damage, it's global economic injury caused by a pandemic. Now, the other day, you know, someone was talking about Davos, but now there's a new place where the billionaires are meeting up. I think it's Crystal Valley, and you know, there was a combined worth of these elite people of over £1 trillion. That is a colossal power, and you know, that is a lot of lobbying that can be done with global governments, and in some respects these people combined in their hedge groups have more power now than actual governments, because they are the ones that are taking it upon themselves to steer the way we'll live in our future. And what I'm talking about there is the 3D printed meat, the maggot farms that they're producing these protein burgers with, and you know, just banning farming or making it really hard for farmers to raise and rear cattle across the range. Now, they talk about sustainability in one hand, but on the other hand, there's nothing further from sustainability. Over here in the UK, they've done a deal now with New Zealand to produce all our beef, and I believe we get a lot of New Zealand lamb as well from there. But what is sustainable about moving cattle and meat products thousands of miles around the world when we can grow and rear our own here in the UK? How is that more sustainable? They talk about sustainable cars for the future and sustainable energy, when we know wind power and solar panel, it's temporary, it's sentimental. Some days you get performance out of it, and other days those wind turbines are set still, not even turning. And yet they want to produce more of these wind turbines, more solar panels, invest more into newer power generating plants, and it's not sustainable, and yet they are driving us to a point where they want us all in electric vehicles, so the demand on electricity will be even more. The world is changing. It's like they said at Davos, by the time we get to 2030 we're going to be feeling a little bit dizzy, and we surely are, because of the amount of things that are changing. More spying, more corruption from these people, and what are they doing with the money that they actually make themselves? Go and play childish rocket games, like going up into space. In the last couple of weeks we've had 2 billionaires build their own rocket engines and develop their own technology, which would have cost millions and millions, and go up into the stratosphere. Not even really in deep space, but just enough to qualify as an astronaut. That's the world we're living in right now, and it's deteriorating more faster by the day. Yes, there are, as you may have already noticed, some things not appearing on the shelves in your shops. And when people can't get cans to put the canned food in, and food rots, that's a loss of profit. When people can't get water to feed the cattle, and they end up slaughtering the cattle, including their prime stock, that stock doesn't come back overnight. We're moving into territory which is not looking so good for a lot of people around the world, and things need to be changing. And it's some of the things we can do something about, other we can't. I'm afraid we can't do very much about the magnetic pole reversing. We can inform ourselves of the changes that are taking place and try and steer ourselves out of trouble with regards to that. We can help ourselves when it comes down to development in the future by not building houses at the bottom of valleys. And this week in Belgium, in Germany, I saw where there was a whole development that had been built in the bottom of a valley, and it was like they was completely oblivious as to how in the first place the valley had formed. That was through weather erosion. And just because you haven't seen severe weather and flooding in that valley for perhaps 100 years doesn't mean that that cycle of weather won't come back round, because after all it does take many tens of thousands of years to erode a valley in the countryside. And we see this, we see these things happening. There's one problem about cities, is that you can't pick them up like a tent or a teepee overnight, move them and relocate them. Cities are permanent, they cost a lot of money, and people are dependent on holding on to the death of that city. But one thing you have to remember and remind ourselves is that cities are not sustainable for the amounts of people that live in them. Without the constant flow of logistics into cities, they are stagnant places that do not support natural life. We have to start reminding ourselves of these things when we are choosing the next place to live in our lives, especially as time goes on, because these old cycles are coming back. We may not have heard of the floods that they had in China for over 1,000 years, but it doesn't mean that tomorrow that can all change, and we see that that is the case. Tomorrow, guys, I'm going to do Earth Health at a glance. We're going to take some readings with all our equipment here at the observatory, and we'll just update the website like we normally do. I know it's been a couple of days, but I've been trying to do other things as well here to support the observatory as best I can. But I do appreciate your help, and there's a link down there in the description, or you can go onto the website and use the donate button, or you can become one of our patrons. It's entirely up to you, but the main thing is that it's well worth supporting an observatory which is keeping people informed of the truths that are taking place in our modern day society. And with that, I wish you the very best for the afternoon. Take care of your loved ones, and as always, bye for now.